Welcome to the episode of Her Trails all about mandatory gear. So most, if not all, ultra events and trail events will have a mandatory gear list of gear and supplies that you need to take with you on your person whilst you're racing. And the reason being,
to support you to get to the finish line and keep you safe.
perfectly said, Jo. So we're going to look specifically at Ultra Trail Australia's mandatory gear list. I would say they have one of the bulkier kind of extensive items that they like you to carry. So if you're signing up for another ultra event, this will give you a really good gauge on the breadth of what you might be asked to carry. Again, like all these different items, there's so many different options out there. The market is becoming, in a good way, flooded with so many different options to suit individual requirements and needs. But this is the stuff that Jo and I both utilise in the event. So let's kick off with the first item, which is a long sleeve thermal top. Polypropylene, how do I say that?
Polypropylene.
Perfect, thank you, or wool. So these are ours.
Yeah, so we like to go for a lightweight merino wool thermal is what Sam and I would wear. You know, merino wool's a really good option because it thermoregulates beautifully, it doesn't get smelly, and it lets air come in and out of it without trapping it too much, but it still keeps you really, really warm. So that's a really good option.
And this is the pants as well, same kind of fabric. UTA asks you to have both the long sleeve top and the long leg thermal pants. And I have had to take these out of my backpack and utilize these in an ultra event. So it's definitely a possibility depending on if you're going to be running into the night time or if you get injured or anything happens. They're definitely a big safety item. Next one is the waterproof and breathable jacket with fully taped but not critically taped waterproof seamed and hooded jacket.
Exactly. So this is what we've got an example of here. So this is a Lululemon one. There's lots of really great ones on the market. I guess the features that we'd recommend you look for are the ones that are listed that you need.
Yep.
The seam seals, the breathability, obviously has to be waterproof graded, but in addition to that, really consider the weight. You know, so many waterproof jackets on the market, but you don't want your everyday waterproof jacket. You want a run specific one that will be super light in your pack.
My favourite part on the specific descriptions is the jacket must fit you. Plastic rain ponchos, wind jackets, water resistant jackets are not suitable. So be smart. This is an item that very typically will get used by a runner. So have it work you and fit for you. Next on the list is you have to have some kind of like headgear, whether it be a beanie, balaclava, or buff. So we've got two options here, the buff and also the beanie.
So buff
Water.
and the beanie.
Yep. And that's then also the same for the full-fingered lightweight thermal gloves. Exhibit A. The same as also the thermal gear. They're asking you to have either that word that I struggle to say,
Polypropylene.
or wool. That's going to be the word I struggle with. Okay, I'd say like it's a mixture of races who actually make you require this, but the UTA is a definite. The high visibility safety vest that complies with Australian standards for nighttime and day.
Yeah, any trail race that crosses roads in Australia is going to require you to have a vest. So that's when you have to do it. So in UTA, anytime you enter a road or cross a road, they ask you to, that isn't closed for the event, they're going to ask you, oh, you want me to show the vest?
I want you to put it on. I want you to put it on.
Yeah, it's highly fashionable.
It always looks like a dress on me because of my height.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good.
And what does qualify it to the Australian standards is this reflective tape that's on it. So when you are buying it, do check that it meets those standards because that is the requirement. It has to have the reflective tape and meet the standard because the purpose is that at night, if a car's coming on that road and you're running at night, you will be seen. So that is a genuine safety item.
Yep. This is often an item that they ask you to check at some point during the race. So it's, I mean, like everything, you've got to have it on you.
And you can pick it up at just a workwear store. Anyway, you get those sort of things.
We have got two headlamps for the UTA mandatory gear list. We've got your main one, something like this, and then it goes a small backup light. And this is if obviously this one fails. So obviously if you're out at night time or if anything goes wrong, you need to have a light source. And so that's why you're kind of asked to carry two.
Yeah, and you really want to make sure that your Your main light is a solid light. You want to have like at least 700 lumens of brightness in that light. And make sure this one that carries is probably going to have batteries in it, has fully charged batteries in it. I've been in a 100k race and my main light's failed and I've had to rely on my backup light. And you really just still want it to be able to throw some good light so you're not going to lose time or be unsafe.
Yeah. This is a, I've forgotten the brand of this one. This is an exposure headlamp. And the reason I like this one, particularly for females who have ponytails sometimes, is that it opens like that. And so I feel like this doesn't give me a headache. A lot of the kind of more heavy duty ones will have a piece in the middle, but this one doesn't. And I feel like it sits really well on the head.
Yeah.
You a fan?
Yeah, I am. I've never used it. But Petzl do a really good one. AUP do a good one.
AUP do great ones.
They're all really bright. There's some good options out there. The Run specialty stores will have them stocked and you can go try them on and see what they look and feel like. Just make sure you're getting a nice bright one.
Whistle. A lot of backpacks these days have a whistle fixed
do.
onto them. And they're quite, they're kind of hard to find sometimes because they're near the clips.
That's the whistle.
And for this one, I had a look before, it has a whistle and it's, wait. You want to really know where it is? Here.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're camouflaged. But this is where they are. And if anything goes wrong, like you'll blow the whistle to kind of look after yourself. All right, next on the list is a mobile phone. It says mobile phone in working order with fully charged battery and working SIM card.
So if you're in a longer race, also make sure you've got all your apps closed. You know, if you're going to be in a really long race, you can keep it on airplane mode unless you need it. You really want to focus on preserving your battery, and you can even carry a spare battery pack if it's a super long race and you know your phone's not going to last the distance.
A lot of ultra trail events are in remote locations, so you want to think of coverage as well. Telstra generally has a wider coverage versus an Optus. So it might just be that you get a Telstra SIM card prepaid that you utilise for, you know, races such as this. But definitely you want to think of coverage.
Absolutely.
Compass. How often have you pulled out your compass in a race?
I've used it in adventure racing.
Yep.
But I've never used it in ultra trail races. But in remote races, they do want to, you know, really prepare you for the, you know, event where anything could happen. If you do have issues with your phone and you know how to use a compass, that can save your life. So yes, it's very unlikely you will use it, but it's there for your safety and it's good to have. So if you're going to carry it, you should also know how to use it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. A lot of people will throw some of these items in their pack, but just have no idea how to even, you know, read it. So try and pull out, because another item on your gear list is your map. And so at least have a play around utilising your compass to work with your map. So
Absolutely.
There's plenty of online courses and there are plenty of experienced people in the trail running world who could probably give you a quick 101 on navigation.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got the emergency space blanket.
Okay, so space blanket, again, really easy to pick up anywhere that you would buy first aid. This is mostly in case of an emergency, so you fall, you roll your ankle, you know, you don't have to be desperately hurt. In the mountains, it can get really cold at night really quick, and so that's when you pull that out. I actually know people who've used it who aren't hurt, who've just got so cold and can't keep warm trying to get to the end, and they've wrapped it around. And I know someone else who's folded it up and put it under their shirt to just retain a little bit more body heat when they're moving slowly and it's really cold at night. So it's versatile and it's super important.
Often people will even pull them out at the end of a race when they're waiting at the finishing line for friends or their support crew are somewhere else on the course, and this is something that can kind of keep them warm. So
Absolutely.
Hugely important and very, like, they're low in expense as well. We've got a compression bandage.
Okay, so especially in races that are in the Australian bush, like Ultra Trail Australia, snakes are a possibility. They're definitely out there for sure. I live in the Blue Mountains and I see them all the time when I'm training. For Ultra Trail Australia, you don't just need a bandage, they specify what that bandage has to be. It has to be 10 centimetre compression bandage, of which this is. So when you're buying your bandage, make sure you know what you're buying and that it meets the specifications outlined in your mandatory gear. And the race will, you know, talk to you about the details of that, but really make sure you've got a good quality bandage. Obviously it's for any first aid scenario, it's not just for snake bites, but make sure you've got the right ones for your event.
Yeah, with snake bites, the whole idea is if you've been bitten, Whether you know it's a venomous or non-venomous snake bite, they always get treated as venomous bites. And it's about applying compression, which is why you want the compression bandage. You'll probably stop the next runner that comes through and grab their compression bandage. So these items keep you safe, but also they protect other people if they get in trouble as well.
Exactly.
Lightweight, dry sack. This is where Joe and I differ, and that is totally fine. Joe is a fan of the Ziploc bags to kind of contain her items of mandatory kit, and I'm a bit more of a fan of like the lightweight dry sacks, and I'll often go different colors of them. So I'll be like, okay, my buff and compass will be in this one, and then I'll get a green one or a pink one for different things, and that's how I know where my things are. I just think that they're...
Whereas I like the see-through bag that I can see where my things are.
Yeah, each for
their own.
Each for their own.
That's right.
You do you.
I will.
Okay, we've got water bottles or bladders, 2 litre capacity.
Okay, so here we've got a bladder. This is 1.5 litres. So you could carry a bladder in the back of your pack and 2 500ml flasks on the front. That would be 2.5 litres. So you can mix and match, and that gives you the, capacity to have electrolytes in some and plain water in the other, which is really important. When you're running, you should always have some plain water in case you get something in your eye or you need to rinse something off. So that's definitely what we'd recommend. Don't just rely on a 3 litre bladder, like mix it up and have the capacity to split what's in your water.
Well, yeah, so this is your hydration system. The way that I do it is I always have maybe about a 1.5 litre bladder in the back, and I probably have it filled up 500 mils, and I consider that my emergency supply. So that water is always there if something goes wrong. I don't mix it with electrolytes, it's just plain water. And then my front flask at the top of my pack, one might be water, or one might be, electrolytes, and the other might actually be liquid nutrition. So you've got to create a system that works well for you. Next up, food portions. And the rules with UTA is you need to start each leg with 2 food portions. So you might, and there's a whole range of things you could do. You could go bars, you could go gels, you could go, this is liquid nutrition, so it's like powder, it converts into calories and it's got minerals and salts in it. Here's some more gels as well. So you need to make sure on you at all times, leaving a checkpoint, is 2 of these. All right, I like this one. You'll love this, Ziploc bag for personal rubbish.
Again, I'm a huge fan of the Ziploc bag. It's also going to come in handy later when we pack our mandatory gear into our pack. But yes, you should. We don't really have to say this to trail runners, but all trail races have a really strong leave no trace policy. So and when you're tired, it's really easy to drop bits and pieces. So having a plan on how you're going to manage your rubbish when you're breaking your gels, when you're finishing things before you start is really important, and making sure that is accessible is really important. And then when you finish, it's all going to be in the bag and you get to chuck it out and the bush gets to stay.
Yeah,
Nice.
Take out what you bring in. Obviously, there's not like rubbish bins in the middle of the wilderness and the trails. And Joey's right, these gels can get quite sticky and be pretty yucky in your bag if you don't use like a little Ziploc bag to clean them up.
That's it.
Next up is the 100 weight minimum long sleeve synthetic fleece top.
So that is something like this polar fleece shirt. So this is, again, for when it gets cold at night. Maybe you've been going all day and you're getting more tired, so your body heat isn't as hot as it would be when you're running faster in the daytime and the sun's down. So this is a good way to keep warm and keep going. It's also really handy if you do roll your ankle or if you do get stuck first aiding or helping somebody else out on the trail and you need to stay warm. You have to be really aware of looking after yourself as well in those situations. So you can pop that on, and if you're in really poor weather, popping it on under your raincoat is really helpful as well.
It's why you don't go wool, because wool obviously when it gets wet, gets really wet and also makes you cold. Maps, you've got to have the course maps and the course descriptions, and like everything, please know how to read these or understand them or have kind of spent time reviewing them before the race, because it's so easy when you're not paying attention and maybe a course marker might have gotten taken by someone who was out on the trails who had nothing to do with the race. You want to be able to know how to get yourself back on track in the worst case scenario. UTA also has participant emergency instructions card, and they are provided to you by the organisers. So we don't have that, but it's
They're often on the back of the bibs now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
They're waterproof too. Race number provided to you by the race organisers, and timing tag for your backpack also provided to you by the race organisers. So this is making it pretty clear, like when you go to your race briefing, when you check in at the beginning, you're going to be kind of taking a couple of items that are not yours to pack away. So that is the mandatory gear. It seems extensive when we read it out like that, but here it's pretty well contained, and we're about to show you a bit of a Houdini trick of how to get all these items sweetly and neatly compacted into your pack.